Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Something Something podcast. My name is Eric Kasloff, and with me, as always, is Larry Sands. How's it going, Larry?
Everything is great, Eric. I can't believe it. We're actually using video for this one.
We have a very special guest to introduce.
Oh man, I can't believe it. Our guest this week, Anthony Mora. Hi, Anthony. Welcome to the show.
Hey, both of you. I
Thank you
can't
so
believe
much for
we're
coming
finally
on.
doing this.
I
Yeah,
know, I know. We've been w- we have been talking about getting Anthony on. And by the way, Anthony, he is in Los Angeles. He is the owner and the founder of Mora Communications. Is that fair to say, Anthony?
Yeah, it's Anthony Mora Communications. And yeah, we've been around for a few years. It's like 32, we're going on 33 years.
wow.
Wow.
I know, scares
Wow.
me.
And and it's really great because we've been trying to get you on, which is good. And now that everything is kind of slowed down towards the end of the year, you are our I can't believe this is amazing. You're our very first PR person we're having on the show.
Yeah,
So that's really cool. But what's even cooler is because I want to get into like the PR stuff, but you have such a fascinating background. I
Oh,
mean,
cool. Yeah, it's well, it's funny because we've had a lot of our clients on your show, but
yes,
yeah,
yes.
I've never made it here.
I know.
But yeah, I've been in PR for quite a few years, but I started on the other side of the fence. I was a journalist, basically a music journalist, rock journalist. Eventually, I jumped to what my journalist friends call the dark side, which was PR in order to survive.
Right.
Because in
Yeah.
journalism, particularly back then, it was the magazines were kind of like, we're giving you the ability to be cool. We don't need to pay you, because you'd get into concerts for free. You could review concerts. I was lucky. I got to, meet Tom Petty
Wow.
and, Pat Benatar and the Go-Go's and, uh, go and hang out at Alice Cooper's house,
That's
you
my
know, did an interview with him and, and you're able to get into like concerts for free. And I was a complete rock lunatic.
That's
I'm
awesome.
one of those guys where it's like, yeah, rock and roll did save my life,
Wow.
because there's times, particularly like where you're really young and everything seems bleak, and you have those albums back
Yeah.
then, it was albums,
Exactly. Yeah.
that you put on and you listen to, and they get you through stuff.
Yeah.
So I started there. It was basically, in the journalism side. Then I managed a couple of bands. And that was back in the day where there was Elektra, ABC, Geffen, Warner Brothers. Labels would sign artists, actually give them an advance, which is
Yeah.
unheard of nowadays.
Right.
And they would launch you. They would kind of take care of you. I don't know what I would do if I was managing now. It is such a different world, but that was fun. It was kind of during the whole punk new wave, part in LA. So there were a lot of clubs to play. The band I was managing, we were able to open for the Go-Go's.
Wow.
And so it was fun. It was cool. But like I said, it was a really hard way to make a living.
Yeah.
Or I would make my money, which I can say now, is I would make them really long interviews so I could take enough of the interview to resell to a men's magazine
Nice.
Oh,
because they would pay. And back then it was before the internet where you can see anything you want to see now. Uh, there was, Playboy and Penthouse, and then a whole slew of ones, underneath that. And those guys would pay good money, for the interviews. Um, but after a while, it was just freelancing's a hard way to go. And I became the editor of a couple of magazines. And I think that's where I learned PR, because I was being pitched all the time, and once I finished, with the two magazines, I decided I'd never worked for a PR firm. Up to this day, I've never worked for a PR firm. So, but I thought, I think I know how it works. I know how to write. And I jumped in, and 32 years later, here we are.
Wow.
Man.
So what's cool to me is you've seen the evolution of the entertainment industry when, like you said, from magazines to now with podcast and social media being so vital for people to get their stuff out. What has it been like? Was it because of the advent of, social media, Web 2.0? Do you think PR is easier or tougher now?
Um, I actually think I wouldn't use the word easy, but I think that there's more you can do. Back before there was the internet and stuff, if we placed an article for a magazine for a client, they wouldn't see it for 12 weeks, sometimes 16 weeks, and that's a long time to ask, particularly a new client, to have faith that you know what you're doing.
Wow.
Now we can get stuff up within a week, with online publications. Podcasts have exploded. One thing I have found is a lot of people are beginning to lose the definition of what PR is and confuse social media with PR. And they can work really well hand in hand, but they're not the same creature. As I was interviewing some people for a possible account executive job, and I'm saying, are you doing PR? And they say, yeah. And I say, well, tell me what you've done. Well, I put people on Facebook, on Instagram. And I said, that's great. But what have you done PR-wise? I said, well, I put them on LinkedIn and YouTube or whatever. And it's like, have you placed any magazines, any newspaper interviews? And they didn't realize there is a real difference. The melding of the two, of traditional PR and social media, is the strongest approach. But they're two different animals. But yeah, back to your question, I have seen it change, dramatically on. But I think the change has, for magazines and newspapers, it's been rough because their advertising dried up. So staff has been cut. It's not the world that it was years ago. It's very hard to get investigative reporters now because there's just not the money for it. So I think we're losing something that was a real pillar for the country to help keep things in line, to look into what's going on. But as to actual types of outlets, there's so many more possibilities now that I'm much more comfortable working PR where it is now. And we've shifted. I used to do pretty general PR. So we represent everything from physicians to lawyers to beauty companies. And now we focus strictly on authors and filmmakers. And that's another thing that's really near and dear to me, because I also write novels and plays. So I understand these people.
Right.
We speak a common language, which really helps.
Yeah, it does help because, obviously Eric and I are filmmakers and creatives and all that. And it's hard when you try to talk to somebody who doesn't understand that language.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think it really is. And I think that a lot of the writers and filmmakers appreciate that I've been on the other side of the fence where I have gotten rejections for, my novels or my plays. And, I've, because we also have a production company, and I know what that world is like and what you have to go through. So I'm not just looking at it standing apart from them saying, I'm going to promote your work. It's like, I've been in the trenches too. And I know how hard it is. And I know what it's like to feel like either I finish that film or I finish that book and my work is done, and you realize it's just started.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, I hate promoting my own stuff.
Yeah.
My own books or my own films. It's like I'd rather have, generally it's somebody else in the company, but not me, because you're too close.
Yeah.
You're just too close to it.
Yeah. I mean, you can't, it's so weird, but, and it's so true, because when you look, it's harder to look at yourself objectively, right?
Yeah.
And put yourself, although that is a weird thing too, and I've sent some things out for Eric and I for our podcast, being like somebody else, trying to be somebody else, right? Put a different name to it. But then I'm just like, forget it. Right. But
it's very hard to market your own stuff.
Yeah.
And to put on both hats, and they take very different mindsets, and I think the big mistake that people make, and it's understandable because all PR firms work with this and most publishers do, but they'll write a press release and they'll send it out and they'll think they've done PR, and a press release, it has its function. It works for breaking news stories, for celebrity-oriented stories, for business to business, but that's a one-size-fits-all pitch. That same pitch is going to Sports Illustrated, to Forbes, to your local, newspaper. It can't meet all those needs unless, if you're Microsoft and you're sending it out, it'll meet all those needs, Right. If you're George Clooney, Brad Pitt, it'll meet all those needs. If you're Beyonce, because everybody knows who you are, they're just getting filled in. But if you're trying to establish yourself, press release is probably the weakest way to go. Is what we do is we work with short, concise pitches, and we gear that pitch to the outlet we're going to. If we're going to something, I want to know, what is it you guys do and what is it you're looking for and why would it work for you? I want you to pick it up selfishly, not because I'm trying to sell you.
Yeah, I think that now, since there's that old saying, the riches are in the niches, niche market. So, like, let's just say someone writes a book about those remote control cars, a novel about that. There is probably 1,000 blogs and 500 podcasts all about remote control cars. So nowadays you can take that press release and send it to those things because it's a built-in market. You're not doing that widespread approach like, let's say, USA Today. How many people who get USA Today are going to care about the remote control car movie? But when you go to the top remote control car podcast, that's a couple thousand people who listen to it are going to know about that novel.
Yeah, and you want to do that, but then you want to take the hits and the media coverage that you've gotten in the niche market and then go to USA Today, but make the pitch like the niche market. They're going to be very geeky about it, right? They're going to know all about it. So if you pitch it that way to USA Today is going, you've already lost my audience.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is start drilling down like for examples, we'll work with mystery writers or sci-fi writers. Same thing. You have a real niche market you can drill down to, and you go there. But then you can take those hits and those media placements and that coverage, and then give a more general pitch that hits a more general mainstream market, and go to the USA Today's and the Today shows and that. Not that you'll hit them, but you've got a chance.
Yeah.
You know, and you never know until you try. So we always do go to the main, you know, the larger media, but we know at the beginning, 9 times out of 10, we're going to get a no if it's an unknown author or filmmaker. But that no is to that day and that time. And we're going to go back. There was one client who signed with us, and he wanted Time Magazine. I mean, and he was really, you know, he really wanted Time Magazine. And we got it, but it took a year. We went back to Time Magazine 18 different times.
Wow.
And each time we changed the pitch a little, because if you don't change the pitch, and I know this from having been on the other side, you're thinking, this person's not listening to me at all. I told them no, you know. So when you go back, you want to acknowledge that, and you want to say, hey, I know that last pitch didn't work. This is why this pitch, I think, really works for your audience. But you change it. You just don't keep, you know, if you keep going back with the same pitch, you're just going to alienate the media. They're just going to think they're paying no attention to me. They don't care about my time. You know, you want them to know that you're pitching to them and you're respecting them, you know, what they need. But, you know, to kind of go back, you know, to your point, it's true. It's now opened up quite a bit because of podcasts and blogs to places we would never have access to a few years ago.
Yeah, it's that whole thing about a blue ocean or a red ocean. Because I always felt when you stick to niches, it just helps with everything. And to get back to pitching stuff, one thing I think I'm really good at is pitching movies. You know, I always did well in film school at that. And I feel that when people are, let's say, pitching to a magazine, the problem they might do is use the small media pitch to a big pitch thing. It's like if I'm pitching a movie that's an action film that has a love story element, and it's a room of, I don't want to sound bad, but older women who might not enjoy action movies, I'm going to focus more on the love story pitch to it. Like, you know, it's about this guy who has to rescue his wife who he loves very much, blah, blah, blah. But if I'm pitching it to a group of guys, he's a former Marine who has an insane kill count. And you have to read the room is what I'm trying to say.
That's exactly it. If we're going to USA Today, we're not going to pitch the same pitch we'd pitch to their local TV show, or
exactly.
You know, if we're going local, we're leading with local. If we lead local national, they're going to say, why? You know, we don't care, you know. And to your point about the films, it's very similar to that. And we've actually, about 3.5 years ago, we added a new service to the company called Books to Films, where we're pitching our clients and their books to studios and streaming services and producers. And so it's very much that. And as we go to those, you know, various production entities with the pitch, we're changing the pitch depending on where we're going. And we want to know, what have they produced in the past, you know? And but right now, it's a really interesting time because it is still the Wild West in the production world. Like in the 1990s, I had a production company, and we did a few like low budget horror films. One with Linnea, and yeah, Linnea Quigley, who I used to manage years ago, and she's known as Queen of the Bees and the Scream Queen, and
still that's working till today.
Yeah, And that's where I really learned PR, was working on her campaign, because I was thinking, she, a really attractive horror film actress. Well, there were a whole bunch of them, and that was back during Corman was still working, and there were a lot of horror film outlets right then. It was straight to video. It was obviously it was before streaming, but we decided we got to present her and position her differently. So we came up with Scream Queen and Queen of the Bees.
Wow.
And I think it was People Magazine picked up Queen of the Bees, and they did a whole page on Linnea. And Scream Queen was picked up by Entertainment Tonight, wow, where they had Linnea go on and scream. But it really hit me that, by pitching her towards their needs, she got really huge media coverage. And, I really took that lesson of, we met their needs instead of just saying, here's this new actress, who stars in horror films, and this is what she's done. Because they're just going to write that off. Right. They're going to think, yeah, there's a million of those. I mean, back when Oprah had her TV show, and everybody wanted to be on Oprah, and everybody still wants to be on Oprah, and she doesn't have her.
Yeah.
I don't know how to tell people, I just want to be on Oprah. And it's like, well, maybe a decade ago. Yeah. But with her, if we would segment produce the pitch and pitch it that way, this is who's in the audience. This is what is being covered. This is how it's being presented, as opposed to saying, here's a new book by this author. Tell us what you think.
Right.
We're telling them to figure it out. On the other side, we're pretty much storyboarding a segment for them, and that's where I think you become more successful.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. To go back to books to film, because knowing, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but the time frame, because knowing about development hell, right, for films, how do you talk to clients or get them to understand, like, this could be a process?
No, and you're so right. We don't offer the service as a standalone service. Okay. If they don't take the PR service, because it's the chances of it working without them getting some kind of buzz is very slim.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, with PR, you're going to see movement quickly. Within the first week, 2 weeks, you're going to start getting interviews. Yeah. And they always do. I mean, like you were saying, the film, that world is glacial, so because we had a client where someone got back and said that they were considering, their book, and the client wanted us to push. And I'm there, no, you don't understand. The fact that they got back to us and said they're considering it is at least a base hit, maybe not a home run.
Exactly.
Right.
But it's, and what we do now is we thank them and we let them know, is there any more information that they need? But you don't push then. Because it is a very slow process, and it takes time. But right now, with Paramount Plus, with Hulu, with Disney, with Netflix, with Amazon, and then there's smaller ones that drill down, kind of like the podcasts and blogs we were talking about. There are so many outlets that it's not. When I had the production company in the 90s, we knew who the players were, and there was a finite group you could go to.
Yeah.
And then there was foreign, and we had Roger Corman was saying, yeah, I'll help you guys finance this. And it was like, this is great. And he said, just come in with foreign.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking if I have foreign, you know, you know, but I mean, it was pretty. I mean, but that was his skill. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
He knew
yeah.
how to do that, and but back then there was a very few outlets. It was possible, and particularly when stuff started going straight to video, you could make money for a while. But
Like look
then
at
the
Full Moon.
yeah, well, Full Moon was one of the ones back then, you know,
Mm.
and there was a couple of others that were, you know, I can't remember, but yeah, Full Moon.
Chroma, Lloyd Kaufman.
Oh, cough. Yeah. No, it was Full Moon. It was Kaufman. There were a couple of others that, you know, I can't think of their names, but you could go straight to video and you could make money off of them. Um, but then they started to release the big film straight to video pretty quickly, and that window kind of closed
Yeah.
there. You know, now you've got streaming, you know, but making money is still is the tricky
Yeah.
part there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, and
It's like you can get your movie on Netflix, but the guys who made Stranger Things, they don't know how many people have watched Stranger Things because Netflix doesn't put out their numbers to anyone.
yeah,
Oh,
no, I know, and yeah, and Netflix is holding fast to that, you know, and you can get it out there, but it's figuring out how do you monetize it now, and and it's very similar to where the music world is now, where you know before, like I said, you could get ABC or Geffen to make your novel, give you know the band or the singer in advance, and you had some cushion. You had now it's they almost want you to come to them with a finished master,
right. Yes, yeah.
and it's like we'll distribute you.
Right.
Well, that's a whole different ball game, you know, where you know the musicians and bands are making so much more of their money off merchandising than off music, where it used to be the exact opposite.
Mhm.
You
Yeah,
made your money off music,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Now that's a novel idea.
Yeah. Now when you go to the concert, that's why you see 60, 70, $80 t-shirts
Yeah,
as opposed to, 35, 40, and it is funny. It's not funny at all because Eric and I have when we shot our horror film and Eric is working on the kills of
Yeah.
he's editing. But as a filmmaker, listening to the podcast and thinking about because now filmmakers, it's not just really Eric and you and I have talked about this, and
I'm
Anthony.
going to add something when you're done.
Yeah, and I think nowadays filmmakers have to be conscious about, it's hard enough to have a budget to film, right? And to pay people whatever that may be, right? To for the production. But now afterwards, you have to come with some type of budget for press, for
and
PR.
and that's what filmmakers seldom remember.
Yeah.
It's I have so many filmmakers who come to me, you know, because we do work with quite a few more authors than filmmakers, and I think that's the reason is
Yeah.
they come to me and it's like we've spent all our budget, and it's like you've got to think of the marketing as part of your below the line budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
You know, you've got to build that in, because if you don't market it, you can have the best film there is out there, and your family might see it, you
Yeah.
know, and some of your friends might see it, but you need to build that bridge to the audience, you know, and that's that's what we're looking to do, is to build that bridge between our authors and our filmmakers and the audience and the media, you know, and then opportunities can come that you'd never expect, which is some of the coolest things about PR for me, is that we know what we're shooting for. We're shooting for, magazine coverage, media coverage, newspapers, TV, radio, podcasts. But the reason we started Books to Film is we had some producers come to us because they saw some media on some of the films and wanted to option some of them.
Wow.
And I thought, well, we're missing an opportunity here.
Yeah.
If we're just going to be reactive, why don't we be proactive, And we're not agents. We don't negotiate deals. We have agents we refer clients to, or if they have their own agent, that's fine. But it's kind of the same as we're pitching it to the media. We're pitching it to the film world, saying, take a look at this, and there is media behind it.
Wow.
This train is already going. So jump on board.
Yeah, there's this book I think everyone should read. It's even on Audible, called Rise of the Filmtrepreneur. And it's basically how filmmakers also have to be entrepreneurs. The author does this great example. It's, let's say you were doing a romantic comedy, big thing, but then you niche it to, it's about a YouTube chef who's a meat eater, but starts dating a vegan chef. So what you would do then is, well, vegan cooking. You make a vegan cookbook and you get a kind of popular YouTube vegan chef to give you recipes. So now when the movie's done, you have two things you can promote to. The vegan cooking community, like, hey, this niche move comedy that we have, plus the larger, romantic comedy person. Then you have the book that you can also get out. So you're hitting all these different markets at once with one product. And also you have a second revenue stream of your vegan cookbook that you're making money off of too. Sure, Marvel people and, the big companies can just be filmmakers nowadays.
Right.
Everyone else can't. You have to be a
and filmmaker. Not even Marvel is, because they're doing, their Marvel dolls and their
exactly,
their merchandising. Yeah. But I mean, to your point, I think that's the way you have to do it. And, and when you're making the film, if you have that in mind as well, you're way ahead of the game, because without compromising your film, you can put in some elements that you realize you can utilize in the marketing aspect of it.
Yeah.
And the same when writing a book, or, and when somebody comes to us with a book, we're going to look at the obvious pitch because you're going to go there. But a lot of times there is either something in the news. We had a physician who came to us who wrote a book on wellness. It was a general, kind of oriented book. It was a good book. But right when that came out, COVID hit, So all of our pitches went towards that. How do you deal with that? His book had nothing to do with COVID. We didn't even know, none of us knew COVID was coming at the time he was writing it. But it's called newsjacking, by tying onto something that's in the media already. And if you can tie onto that, then the chances of the media seeing you as a story becomes much greater, Wow. And for nonfiction books, if they can tie in, their business or whatever, is like, I've written a couple of books on PR, and yeah, I wanted to sell books, but to be honest, I wrote the books to help establish the company. Mm-hmm. And it worked. So we didn't pitch the book as, this is how you do PR or whatever. This was back in the days, this is going back, where the Monica Lewinsky scandal, Paris Hilton, all that stuff. So what we pitched was, how does Monica Lewinsky handle her press? And, back then, I think it was Microsoft was having real problems with their image and troubles with the government. Just how do they handle their image? So we were able to get me on a lot of media going that way, going towards what the media wanted to talk about. And they would all say, you know, Anthony Mora, author of either Alchemy, Success, or Spin to Win, whichever the book I was doing at that time. You know, and we got the New York Times and MSNBC and NBC and the BBC, and you know, we got major media, but it was by tying into that bigger story. You know, not focusing. This has to be on the book. You know, this is like this can lightly touch on what the book deals with, and I can address what you need.
Yeah.
You know, and it really helped us, you know, build the company.
Man, it's almost, Anthony, I get the feeling because you started out as a creative first, and you're still a creative. Let's don't get me wrong, or anybody else listening or watching this, but I think because you started out as a creative, you have that creative spirit, and you bring that spirit to what you do in public relations, and it's so it shows certainly in how you approach working with your clients and your pitches, tailoring pitches to the needs of what the media wants. And here's a crazy question. I mean, I don't know many like public relations firms, but it seems to me, I don't know if they do what you do in a creative way. Does that make sense?
It does, and to be honest with you, I don't know either, because it's just we do what we do, you know, and I do approach it from the same way as I approach when I'm writing the novel, is how do we tell the best effective PR is effective storytelling, you know, and how do we tell the best story? And then also, you know, when I'm talking to writers, to novelists, whatever, is one of the beauties of being a novelist is you can use horrible things that have happened to you and turn them into a story, you know. And like I have a new novel coming out called Hang Fire. Well, that came about because when my first book came out, this executive producer came out and said she wanted to make it into a film, right? And I could tell there was something wrong, you know. But each time she would only meet like at the Polo Lounge or at the Four Seasons. It had to be really upscale lounges, and she would leave before the check came each time.
Ooh.
And every time I was about to pull away, she would bring a really big name with her to a meeting, or she would take me to the home of like real moneyed people. And I would think, well, Hollywood is filled with crazies. I can't pull away now, you know. And it took me through this incredibly crazed journey. It became one of those Hollywood stories. It all blew up in the end, but that is the basis of my new novel. So I was able to turn that around. And in the novel, it goes to a much more interesting place, you know, for me. But you can use anything, you know. And so it's a little off, you know, off the mark of what you're talking about PR wise. But with PR, it's similar, and that you want to look at what can I use? You know, what are, because we'll get a lot of media who come to us asking us, do you have someone who can, a podiatrist, you know, a real estate, you know, whatever they're looking for. Well, sometimes they're kind of close to what our clients do, but not completely close. But if it's a big media outlet, I want to see if we can fill in those dots to make it close enough for them to do that interview. Because if by doing that interview, they're going to be in the New York Times, I want to get that to work. You know, it doesn't always work, but that's why you have to think in broader terms. You have to broaden the bullseye. And that's I think one of the pluses for me in dealing with authors and filmmakers. They have a more expansive view. And, like I said, I've worked with, in the past, a lot of physicians and attorneys, and it was basically building their companies or their practice. Well, it was more limited what they would look at. And I understand that, but it was a much more boring, it was a much more boring company. What we're doing now is fun. Wow. And that's the cool part, is that it's fun.
That's cool. That's very cool. I know we're gonna start wrapping up, I think, but I feel, before I say this, I feel that, man, we should definitely have you back on.
Oh, definitely.
And talk
about, oh, that'd be cool. That'd be cool.
Like PR stories and stuff. But what, aside from, I think social media, is that the biggest misconception of what PR is?
That, and also is that 1 month of PR can change my life. It's when clients come to us, particularly are an unknown writer, an unknown filmmaker, our initial job is to build their brand. Hopefully that will initially sell books, but first the client has to know who you are. So, if someone, I'll have people who come to me and this is their first book. I want to sell 100,000 books this year. Well, 5,000 for a new writer with a major publishing company is considered damn good.
Yeah.
So someone looking at 100,000 and thinking that a couple of months PR is going to do that, we need to sit them down, because we're looking to build the brand. But once you build that brand, it's like building a rocket ship. You've got it going. It's moving, and that's why we ask our clients, take all of the media we send your way. Don't cherry pick. Because every now and then it's like, well, I'll do this, but I won't do that. It's like dismantling the machine while we're building it. It's just, you want to build that. So there's a real misconception that a month or two can change my life. Or I'm going to do this, I'm going to be on Oprah, which people still say.
Yeah.
And that's going to change my life. It's like anything else in that way. And it's a sequential, cumulative build. And every now and then there is that, all the stars aligned and everything clicks and it just zooms. But don't expect that. It's going to be a build and you want to stay with it. But it can work if you give it the time and you stick with it. And that's the one thing I've learned. But one of the big misconceptions is how it works, how quickly it works. Definitely the difference between social media and traditional. Like I said, I think it's best if you do the two, and one augments the other, because even going back to like the Oprah thing, when we had clients on Oprah, not everybody sees Oprah. So if you could put that on social media, they're just putting those two names together is all you needed. Your client and the Today Show or Oprah or New York Times, that's all people need to see.
Yeah. Wow. When for all you even musicians, filmmakers and authors, Anthony, when should, because I know it probably is different, like if they have a movie, if they have a book, or if they have an album, but when should they think about even trying to contact or entertain the notion of
a lot earlier than they're thinking right now?
Really?
Yeah. It's filmmakers generally have a better grasp of this. Filmmakers will generally contact me a few months before the film comes out. So many times authors will say, well, the book came out yesterday, or, and, you want to launch, at least I'd like to launch 3 to 4 months before the book comes out, so we can lay the groundwork, start getting it known, get some traction going. We can do it if the book's already come out, but that's not optimum. And with film, particularly if there is a release date, because with books, those are more evergreen. Films can be harder. You really want to hit when that film's coming out if it has a release date. So there you do want to start several months ahead.
Yeah.
And we do a brainstorming session, then we do media training sessions. That's one thing I think we do that a lot of companies don't, is we have all of our clients go through media training, because it's important, because like on a long form show like this, we have the luxury of time. A TV interview could be 3 to 5 minutes, and it is over in a snap.
Yeah.
And you've got to prepare for both.
Yeah. Wow, that's really that's really smart. I mean, I think, and I think because of the generation, because everything is so immediate, I don't think people get it, and rightfully so, because why would they? Because they're not involved in it. But everybody wants something immediately right now. All kind of creative people, they want something immediately, and it is interesting to hear you say that you have all these aspects of your company that I don't think even creative people think about. Does that make sense?
And like you say, we've been trained to get stuff immediately, and particularly with Instagram and Reels and TikTok and that's one of the problems I've had with some clients is on social media. Sometimes what they want to post will get a lot of notice, but it has nothing to do with them, and it doesn't help establish them. And sometimes it's downright silly and actually could work against them. And they're focusing on the noise it makes as opposed to, is this building the image and brand that I want?
That's such a good point. Yeah.
Snap biscuits. Wow, that's hardcore. And Anthony, I mean, we could probably go on and on.
Oh, we definitely could.
This is why, obviously, this is probably one of the biggest, I think, PR wise, because we do have you, and I mean, there's trade secrets, I'm sure, but for everybody out there that has a project, what are some simple things that indie filmmakers, what can we and authors and musicians do to get ourselves out there in a meaningful way?
Yeah, and there definitely is stuff you can do, because not everyone's going to have the budget. Not everyone's going to have the budget to hire us, or to hire, a PR company. And there is stuff that you can do. And one is to do the brainstorming session yourself, or do it with a friend or something, where you want to find out, you want to talk about if it's a book, your journey to writing the book, what's the book's about. Then from that, extrapolate, how many story angles can I get from this? And where would those story angles work? Then once you have that, if you're an author, hopefully you do write, because I was going to say if you don't write, but write a short, concise pitch, 2 paragraphs. Don't write like this huge page where you're telling the whole story, because you're not pitching this to tell them your story. You're pitching this to get them interested.
Yeah.
So you want this to pique their interest, where they say, I want to know more. So, and then find your local media. You can Google it, or sometimes on the crawl at the end, you can find out who to pitch to. find local magazines, newspapers. Almost all of them now have their email, and craft the email to each individual place you're going. You can do a standard press release and put it out there. It's not going to hurt you, and sometimes it helps, but I don't think you're going to get the media you're looking for. I think you need to go individually, then send it out, and then a day or two later, don't be afraid to call, follow up, and not to call to necessarily push them, but just say, hey, I'm just calling to make sure you receive this. And then and do you have any questions about it? Just start a dialogue. And then going back to your niche topic, find niche oriented media in the world of what you've written. If it's sci-fi, if it's nonfiction, what area of nonfiction, and then make a list of like 50 media outlets you're going to go to, and go to those, and go to like 10 at a time, and then follow up on those 10. Then go to 10 more. People have a tendency, well, press releases go off to hundreds at once, and they do, but who's going to follow up on 100? You're going to want to break it into sequential, parts, so you can follow up on 10, follow up on another 10. And then as you get media, because the one thing we didn't talk about is get a website.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of clients come to me and they say, well, I have an Amazon page, or I have a Facebook page, or I have an Instagram. That's great. Get a website. Right. Make it your website, and don't make it about the film or the book. Make it about you and feature that film or that book, because then that website is evergreen, and your next book or your next film, you can feature that. A lot of people make their website about that one book. That'll be relevant for a while.
Right.
But if you make it about you as the author or you as the filmmaker, if you're going to be writing other books or other films, that's always going to be relevant, and get a media page so that you can place your media on there. And whenever you get media, go to your social media and share it. So it's not you talking about you, it's a magazine, or it's a newspaper, it's a podcast. There's that third-party validation, which is just as important and valid now as it was 50 years ago.
Wow. You make it it sounds so easy and doable, but it's daunting, right? And it's very daunting, because when you do anything creative, you really have to really think it out.
But that's why if you do it in short bursts, if you get any media coverage, that'll keep you going. Right. And you'll see I'm going in the right direction.
Right.
Now it's taken that next step. They say any journey is a sequence of steps, and you take that next step and that next step, and then you're getting close, and you'll get there. But you've got to give it time, and you've got to think it through. Look to meet the media's needs every bit as much as you're looking to meet your needs, or even more. Because if you don't meet their needs, it's not going to work.
Wow. So everybody listen to this, you got to go back and listen to it again, and then re-listen to it. If people have any questions or want more information, what is your best way to contact you? What's your website?
Yeah, and this is what I love, because our URL defines what we do. Our website is PR for Writers.
Right to the point.
Yeah. And you'll find everything there. And if you have questions, contact me. And just remember it's doable, because a lot of times as a filmmaker or as an author, you feel like you're by yourself doing this. You're not. There's a lot of help out there, and you can reach your goals and your dreams, but not overnight. Give it some time. Just like you didn't do your book or your film overnight.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing, same process.
Yeah. All you people watching entertainment tonight in the Midwest going, I think I want to do that. It'll take you time. You'll be able to get there. And Anthony Mora, most likely, I don't want to promise anything, but most likely is a great way to start. Oh my gosh, Anthony, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This was coming on.
This was great fun. It was great fun. We've been talking about it forever, and
I know.
I'm so happy we actually pulled it off.
I know we did.
It was really insightful.
Yay! I just, before you wrap it up, Eric, Anthony, thank you. And here's to a great new year coming up.
Yeah, the same to both of you. Let's have an amazing new year.
That's Absolutely. Right. That's right. Yeah. Well, Anthony, we just want to thank you one more time for coming on the show. The website will be listed if you're listening in on Anchor. And when the show goes up, we will have it in all of our social medias. Well, everyone, this is our last show of the year, Larry, before our wrap-up show.
Wow.
And we just want to say, like we always say, especially in this time of the year, I'm going to modify it. Support our troops and their families. Thank you, everyone.